What up, this is Rama Screen covering movies, TV, and entertainment, and here's my review of Motherless Brooklyn. Hey, before you watch this review, please subscribe to my channel, press that like button, and ring that bell so you can get notified whenever I post new videos. And if you would like to help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. That's patreon.com/ramascreen. Let's rock this. Welcome to Edward Norton's second directorial film. It's been nearly a couple of decades now since his first one, Keeping the Faith, which, as I recalled it, was just okay. But now, Edward Norton has also made his screenwriting debut with Motherless Brooklyn as well. He adapted Jonathan Lethem's novel of the same name. Now, I haven't read the book, so I can't make any comparison in this review, although I've heard that this movie deviates quite significantly from many of the details, including changing the setting or the era from the 90s to the 50s or post-war years. But I gotta be honest with you, I watched this movie at the Toronto International Film Festival, and I kid you not, I fell asleep twice during the screening because despite Edward Norton's somewhat amusing Tourette syndrome performance, overall Motherless Brooklyn is just too convoluted. I could not care less about any of the characters, not to mention the unnecessarily bloated runtime, and by the end of it, the movie comes to a complete thud. Starring Edward Norton, Bruce Willis, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Bobby Cannavale, Michael Kenneth Williams, Alec Baldwin, and Willem Dafoe, directed by Edward Norton, the story is set against the backdrop of 1950s New York, and it follows a lonely private detective with Tourette syndrome, Lionel Esrog, played by Norton. He's determined to solve the murder of his mentor, Frank Mina, played by Bruce Willis. Lionel's investigation leads him to encounter gangsters, goons, thugs, corrupt politicians, power brokers, and the only woman who could be his real salvation. Film noir is a particular genre that I was never too crazy about. I don't hate it, it's just that I have to be in the right mood or the right headspace before I go in and watch it. And for the most part, I would find 2 or 3 redeeming values that would keep me engaged. There's only a few film noirs that I truly enjoy, LA Confidential being one of those examples. But in the case of Motherless Brooklyn, going into its first 20 minutes, it's as if the movie just gives up on trying to retain my interest. Sure, the opening scene is somewhat intense when you kind of get the idea that Bruce Willis's character might encounter a terrible fate, but it's nothing that you could not see coming a mile away. You know it's gonna be the thing that drives the mystery forward. But unfortunately after that, the plot keeps taking detours after detours and then roundabouts and then more roundabouts. It reaches a point where the film just could not justify its 2.5 hours runtime. I know a lot of fans of the book are upset at the many changes and alterations that Edward Norton did in his adaptation, but you don't need to have read the book to also be upset at the film because the film gives more than enough reason. Look, I respect Edward Norton for taking this material on as his passion project. I hear he has owned the rights to the book ever since the book got published. So this is something that he had always wanted to do. So you gotta kinda admire that. But perhaps he should have handed it off to another filmmaker who could use color palette to make actual New York appear cinematic instead of it looking like a studio backlot. And perhaps he should have handed it off to another screenwriter who could make the characters and the story more condensed and more focused. Halfway through, Motherless Brooklyn becomes so rudderless, Lionel's investigation feels like it's chasing its own tail, and the whole thing causes inevitable fatigue. I tell you this much, if you have trouble sleeping at night, don't pop pills, don't count sheep, don't read books, just go watch Motherless Brooklyn. It will knock you out in no time. Motherless Brooklyn will go down as one of the most boring movies of 2019.